Welcome, everybody, to the Calgary Real Estate Investment Forum seminar this week. Do you know how to analyze a property? Well, we're going to tell you how in this seminar, how to analyze an offer on your next rental property.
Especially in this market, Tim. It's crazy right now. So we thought we'd put this session on for everybody out there so they can see exactly what's going on, what prices homes are going for these days in Calgary. And it's a great topic.
Yeah. How to analyze an offer on your next rental property. Like I said in the opening, analysis is very, very important these days with the high prices, the high mortgage rates. We're going to go through some things that you do before you start analyzing, and then what you do all the way through to pick your strategy, to analyze the numbers, to knowing your market, knowing the market stats. Everything we're going to go over today will help you get that next rental property.
Yeah, and before we get started, there's already a question in chat. Anyone in the room or online, just put your questions in there. We will get to all of them. And even if it's questions about your neighborhood or best places to invest or should you invest, we can answer all of those questions. This session is all about helping you get comfortable with the idea of investing in real estate or growing your portfolio. We'll be sharing these slides. Of course, we share everything. We don't keep anything back. And not only that, with Tim and myself, we actually tell you the truth about investing in real estate. We're not afraid to say, hey, that's not a good property, don't buy there, or that's not a good area, don't buy there. Or, hey, that's a terrible strategy because we've had clients who, try that for a year. I mean, wholesaling, everyone thinks wholesaling is really, really easy. It's not, it's hard. There's a lot of rejection and you need to understand that. And some of these strategies are packaged and sold through US education companies. They're made to look really easy and some people just waste a lot of money. Our aim is to make you money from real estate, not take it from you.
Oh, this person just asked about the picture of Danielle's slide.
Oh, yeah, we'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Best thing to do is email us. We're going to have our details up pretty at the end there where people can email us.
Yeah, just email us and we'll send you Danielle's contact info and anything else that you ask for. Okay, so what do you do before you get started on your next rental property? Well, you have to do a lot of education and studying things like locations, price ranges, cash flow, and you have to know your exit strategy. So where do you go for real estate investment education? Well, everybody started right here. And this is one place where you can get lots of real estate education. We always suggest people read a lot. We started out by reading Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. A lot of those books, they might be general investment advice, but it's a good start. The more you know about real estate investing, the better the prepared you'll be when you actually go and do it.
Yeah, Tim and I wrote 2 books. One of them I got with me here, Fearless Real Estate. This book you should buy. We wrote it, you should buy it. We'll tell you more about it later on, but we do offer a free ebook as well, which we'll offer at the end of tonight's presentation, which is a great start to anybody thinking about investing in real estate. But you know what? You're on the call tonight. We hope you like it. That's the first step by learning different strategies through us. But getting down to locations, understanding different parts of the city, understanding why certain parts have a bad stigma or negative stigma around it. We do a whole session on all of the locations in Calgary. But what you really have to understand sometimes about locations is that even within a community, there can be a good side or a bad side, or there could be a cheaper part to that community and an expensive part. A perfect example, it would be somewhere like Southwood or Haysboro. Elbow Valley goes straight through, the Elbow Drive goes straight through those communities. And there's a different price point on the west side of those communities to the east side. If you're down near the train tracks, there's more, what would you say, multifamily or higher density.
Some low-income housing.
Low-income housing down there. There's some issues with certain parts around there that could affect house prices as well. So just knowing within a location that, you have to dive a little deeper sometimes. Price ranges. You know what? You have to really understand what's going on in the market today. Like with price ranges, I took a client out on Sunday and we know his price range is around $550. I took him out to see a property for 540,000 in Deer Run. Now, this property needed a lot of upgrading. It needed a lot of work to be done to make it a legal suited property. And I just knew straight away that he would want a discount off the list price. And I just knew that wasn't going to happen. He wanted to offer 500,000. It was listed for 540. It'd been on the market for 2-3 days. There is no way someone's taking a $40,000 hit unless it's unconditional. But even then, in this market, there is no need to do that. And I said to Dennis when I was out with him, you know what, let it sit a couple of days, maybe a week, and then we'll see where it's at. And guess what? The property sold that night. So he won't have the chance to get it anywhere near 500, let alone get it at all right now. So you have to be prepared. You have to understand what the market conditions are doing. The good properties sell within, Tim, 3 to 4 days right now. So very quickly. Normally, just to point out what's going on in the market, normally a property will get listed. Well, we could tell you when we list our properties, we'll list our property on a Thursday or maybe on a Wednesday night. If there's tenants, we'll take showings Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then offers will be Sunday night and the property will be sold. So that's how we're listing our properties right now. And typically that's what you're seeing on the market. I went to another property over in Woodbine. It was a flip and the flip was terrible. Like they just painted original cabinets. The flooring was original. I mean, they just updated a few little things in this place in Woodbine. It was on the market for 550,000. There were showings. I got there was a showing leaving, there was a showing waiting. I was next in line, and when I was leaving, there was 2 more showings going in. And I got the report today that there was 15 offers already on the table, and it was listed at a high price of 550,000. So you have to go in with the expectations in this market, Tim. If the property just came on and you're paying at list price or above, or you're buying it unconditional.
Yeah, so the last two there, cash flow or appreciation, you got to know what you're investing for. Some of our investors invest strictly for cash flow. They will go into lower end communities and get multifamily properties, 2 duplexes, 4plexes, they'll have illegal suite of properties, charge high rents. They're just in it for the cash flow. They're not so much worried about the state of their properties. They don't keep them in tip-top condition. They'll allow pets for more rent. They'll rent out the garage to get extra rent. So if you're in it for cash flow, it's a different type of investing. If you're in it for appreciation, you need to look after the physical unit, the building, so that it appreciates with the rest of the community at the same pace. If you let your properties go downhill, you're not going to get that appreciation they would as if it was some homeowner who's looking after their property. They loved it and they treated it very, very nicely. The final thing, exit strategies. You don't really have to know your exit strategy when you start investing in real estate, but you have to know that investing in real estate has the option of different exit strategies. At the end of your investment, you can just sell it. That's one thing you can do. You can tear it down and build a new unit on the lot. So if you're going to use that exit strategy, you need a large lot. You can't have one of these infill lots that's only 24 feet wide. You'll only have one unit going in there if you build on it. You may want to bring in a partner down the road. So there are various exit strategies. You have to think about what you're going to do with each property type that you're going to get. Some of these communities are single use only. Like if you're in a single family community on the west side where all the houses are pretty much the same, double front garage, they're all the same square footage. That property is always going to be, or that lot is always going to have that type of property on it. So that'll be your exit strategy there. Just think about what your exit strategy is going to be before you get into investing. And then that leads us to the next slide. First thing you got to do is study the market. We went over our market. Let me just let someone in here. We went over our market report at the beginning of this seminar. We study the market every single day. But if you're going to look after your next investment property, study the market that you want to buy it in.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. There's just a quick question in the chat here. I'd appreciate if you speak more exit strategies given 50% capital gain tax of non-primary residence property. So you'll never hear another real estate agent tell you this, but we never, ever, ever want you to sell your rental properties. We don't. They're there to create wealth for you. When you refinance that equity out, it's tax-free. Like it's That's the hidden gem about investing in real estate. And you only want to refinance it up to the point where rents are still covering the costs. So everybody knows this year or the last year and a half, rents have gone up, $1,000 to $1,500 in some cases. So that gives you a lot of room if you're growing your portfolio to refinance that money tax-free and put it down on another property. That's what our experienced investors are doing. And if we are selling an investment property, it is to upgrade your portfolio, okay? And as Tim was just talking about exit strategies, if you have a single-use property, like a single-use property would be a house in Copperfield or Mackenzie Town. I mean, Mackenzie Town might be a little different because you can put a garage suite out back, and you could have a carriage suite above the garage, sorry. And if the laws do pass where you could have multiple dwellings on one property, you may have a basement suite. So things might change over time. But you know what, if you had a condo and all it was going to be is a condo, and we know prices are up, like right now, prices are up 17% on condos this year. So for our investors that have condos, it's not a bad idea, because condo fees are going through the roof. Like we were in the condo yesterday, Tim, and it was $800.
Yeah.
And $800 is the norm now on condo fees. Like it's not even that high compared to maybe taking that money out and putting it towards, a small single family home or a semi-detached, so you could upgrade your portfolio that way. So we only sell properties that we know we can benefit our client from, or some people are paying off debt, Tim, and that's when we have no choice to sell. But the key to investing with exit strategies is not to sell, but to refinance. And you may be at a stage where you're paying down properties. So you have a parallel strategy where you have some properties that you're paying off and some properties that you're refinancing to grow your portfolio or to get onto bigger and better things.
Yeah, and about the capital gains in this question, the person who asked the question is worried about the capital gains tax if she goes to sell the rental property. Well, what we suggest there is you have to talk to an accountant that knows real estate investing, and you incorporate those rental properties within your overall estate. Get some good advice on how to put them within your estate. It's always good, because we don't know everybody's situation and their whole financial thing. If you talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about, an accountant who has real estate investing experience, we have one that we can refer you to. Just send us a private message. But you're going to get taxed on a gain no matter what. You can't, unless it's your principal residence, you're not going to get away with selling a property and taking the profits and running away. That's just the way we live in there. So what you want to do is talk to an accountant to pay the least amount of tax as possible when you do sell that, if you have to sell it. Okay, so back to studying the market. Know where you're investing. Know the crime statistics, the demographics of the place you're in. We were talking earlier today about, a lot of our clients do still want to get single family homes or suite of properties, but they're not in the price range where they can get into a nicer neighborhood. Well, they can do what we did, is start out in lower income communities. Azad had properties in the Northeast when he first started. That's what his income qualifying was. That's where you had to go. And if you want to get started on that type of home, you go to where your qualifying ability can get you. So
yeah, no, exactly. So at the end of the day, if you're paying capital gains tax, it means you made money. You just got to factor that into the equation. And that's just part of it. Don't blame us. Talk to Justin Trudeau on that. But that's the way it goes. But study the market. You really have to understand what's going on, especially if you're attracting JV partners. I mean, when I would take on a JV partner, I've had JV partners that aren't even from Calgary. And I would really get them to understand what's going on. I would get them to understand why I'm investing in a neighborhood. I remember when I invested in Lower Mount Royal, which is just a few blocks from here. And I would showcase, and this is what we want to turn you guys into, is professional investors. I mean, it doesn't even take that long each month to run a little business. And you can have a portfolio of $1 million worth of real estate that one day will be paid off and help you with all the things you need. But getting back to studying the market, when I would work with JV partners, I would go into, say, Lower Mount Royal and showcase look, every building in here is 4 stories high. That means there's never going to be high rises. It's not going to be oversupply in Lower Mount Royal. I would show them why they would live in Lower Mount Royal. You've got 17th Ave, right, 2 blocks away. You've got all the coffee shops, restaurants, bars that you need. And the young people want to live there. And these young people are earning incredible money and can pay high rents. So owning a condo in Lower Mount Royal, I would showcase all of the different stats on what properties are going for, what rents are going for, what are the vacancy rates, what are the demographics, and what are the crime stats. There's areas in Calgary that we will not buy your property. We see people from Ontario, Tim, buying in areas like Forest Lawn, and we just scratch our head. Like, do they know? I know they say, areas turn around, but in Calgary, it's been years. And some of these communities have infrastructure that is not going to help the situation, like drug rehabilitation centers or drop-in centers. It's just not going to, or safe injection sites. It's not going to make the issue go away anytime sooner. So you need to understand where you're investing those dollars and why. And we do that for all of our clients. We actually have clients that come in and we tell them, no, you're not buying there. We can get you something better than that.
Yeah, so the next, went too far there. The next thing is, maybe I didn't go too far. Okay, what is your price range? It's the slide there that, oh, that one was somewhere else. Okay, so the next thing you want to determine is what's your price range? We didn't talk to Danielle today, but that's the person you want to talk to figure out what the price range you're going to be in for your next rental property. Whether you have one or whether you don't have a rental property, you still need to talk to a mortgage broker to figure out your financial situation, to see if you can even qualify for your next rental property. If you can't qualify, we have strategies that can help you move on to your next rental property. But what you really want to do is you want to exhaust your qualifying ability. You want to qualify for as many rental properties on your own as you can before you start bringing on partners or doing some of the alternative strategies. So that's the number one thing you want to do, is figure out your price range, and the mortgage broker will help you do that.
Yeah, understanding that, it just puts us in a position to understand where to go looking. So we need to know that price point. And you may want to delay gratification. I know nobody wants to hear this, but we've had tremendous results over the years with clients coming in that have high paying jobs that can afford, $1 million property, but they're buying their first property. And we delay the gratification and say, look, you know what? We took one fellow, we said, you know what, let's get you a place in Springbank, a little townhouse. Tim, we bought that for $305,000. I think they're selling in there for $450,000, and we're only talking 2 years ago, $450,000 on his first townhouse. Then after that, we went and bought him a place in Tuscany for $450,000. We turned it into a legal suited property in Tuscany. Legal suited properties, I know, I just sold one for $650,000, and this guy's one is better because it's a walkout and it's got mountain views. Okay, so all this happened in 2 years. He then went on to buy 2 properties, one in Deer Run as a joint venture and the other one in Thorncliffe or Huntington Hill, sorry, as a joint venture. So he's got 4 properties. He's now refinanced and gone and bought his dream home 2 years later. So did he have to delay gratification for long? No. You know what? He followed our system, and now he's sitting on close to $2 million or $2.5 million worth of real estate.
Yeah, so after you determine how much you can qualify for, you need that down payment. A lot of our investors don't have a large amount of cash sitting around to do their down payment. There are other ways to do it. You can take it off a line of credit. You can take it out of your RSPs. You can borrow it. You can use different financing mechanisms to get that down payment. You have to speak to the mortgage broker to make sure that it doesn't erode too much of your qualifying ability. You can also go to other investors to get that down payment. You can either offer them an ownership percentage in that property, or you can pay them a percentage return over time on the money that they lend you. So the down payment and the mortgage qualification go hand in hand. If you have one or the other, we can match you up with somebody who has the other one. Never let it set you back if you only have one of those 2 things, financing or capital, but you need to find out where you are right now, because that determines your price range. And what you can qualify for determines where you're going to invest and what type of property you're going to get in those communities.
There is a private message there, Tim, you might want to look at. Someone was talking about wholesaling. Wholesaling in this market would be a little tough just because people could put their properties on the market and get maximum dollar. We're actually telling our investors that have problem properties are properties that may have had a cracked foundation or water in the basement, or they're just hard to rent out. There's problem properties out there, or they're just run down. They're just run down, and it's going to cost $50,000 to, maybe get a new furnace, a new roof, update a new kitchen, and you don't have that money. This is the ideal time to sell a problem property. So if it's the ideal time to get properties on wholesale, it's a little tough, but it's not impossible. We have investors that are putting out notes there. You see the little signs everywhere. We buy houses. Our investors do attract those properties. And guess what? Those properties do go at a discount, but you got to work extremely hard in this market to get a wholesale property. And also we're seeing foreclosures on the uptick, and the foreclosure properties, all of them are going unconditional. So if you're a first-time investor and you want to get into, say, a foreclosed condo, we wouldn't advise it, because first, they don't even give you the condo documents. You have to pay for those condo documents. Then you still have to put in your sealed bid that goes before the court, and the judge will look at the highest price. And if it's unconditional, you'll be awarded the property. And if you don't get it, you're out of pocket for those expenses. And there's multiple offers on foreclosed properties right now. So they're not going for a discount, or they're not generally going below what the list price is. So we want to stress that. There was one in Cedarbrae or something that you couldn't even go view. You couldn't even go view it, that people were bidding on. That's how crazy the market is right now.
Okay, before we go to the next slide, one more question. It says, I live in Red Deer. Do you know much about the market there? Yes, we've put lots of investors into Red Deer. It is doing pretty much the same as the rest of Alberta right now, where at the end of the year, it and Edmonton started to dip a little bit, but they're coming back with a vengeance, because people are seeing the affordability in places like Red Deer and Edmonton and some of the smaller cities in between. So Red Deer is a very, very good rental market if that's where you live and that's where you want to buy the rental properties. It's really good. It's just as good as Calgary. The rents might be a little bit lower, but you're still going to cash flow quite a bit.
Yeah, and one thing about Red Deer, look at the satellite towns in between Red Deer and, say, Edmonton, or Red Deer in between Calgary. I mean, there's little pockets that we've been studying that are going to do well, because people don't want to spend a lot of money renting. So they will actually go, and go to Carstairs. Would that be halfway between here and Red Deer, roughly? Carstairs? No.
It's the next one up.
Next one up. Okay, a bit further. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. People won't mind driving an hour to work if they could save, $600 on their rent. So
yeah, people in Toronto would sit 2 hours on the 401 going from where they live to downtown Toronto to work. So, driving an hour from Didsbury or Innisfail all the way to Calgary to downtown, it's not that much of a commute for someone who's used to 2 hours. So anyways, moving on, picking a strategy. That's the next thing.
yeah,
We'll briefly go over some of these things, because I know a lot of new people out there. Some of these terms are like BRRR. What does that mean? Well, we'll go through this list quickly just to go over what strategies should appeal or may appeal to investors out there. Long-term hold, that's the one we like the most. That's when you buy a rental property, rent it out, and hold it for the long term. Get cash flow off it throughout the term of the time you own it, and get the appreciation. And what it is you're owning an asset where your tenants are paying down your mortgage. So you're not paying for that mortgage, and the property is appreciating at the same time. Those are the three rates of return: the appreciation, the mortgage pay down, and the monthly cash flow.
Yeah, long-term holding, that's what's made us the most money. And that's what no matter what you're doing out of all this here, that would be part of your strategy. Flipping, I mean, at the end of the day, if you've never flipped before, we've had people come into our office that want to get into flipping, and they got full-time jobs and they got 3 kids. There's no way you're going to flip a house if that's your situation. We got to be honest. But flipping can make you a lot of money. What we stress about flipping is that the ARV, which is the after renovation value, has to be within 3 months of your purchase. What does that mean? It means there has to be a proven track record in that community that has produced what you want to produce as profit. Tim and I run all the numbers for our flips. We take that speculation out for our clients. We actually go in and work out the renovation budget, what the after renovation value will be, and then what profit you're going to make. And we always run it conservative, so you make more money than we're actually telling you. But you have to remember, flipping, you're putting a deposit down to buy the property normally. Then you have to come up with the renovation costs, which there's different ways to do that for sure. Most of our clients are using, what's Danielle do for them? Mortgage plus improvements, using the bank's money to flip homes. And then there's different ways to do it as well. And then we have a team of contractors. We got a contractor in the room right now that can help with any renovation project that you may need. But we have to stress, the best way to do it, if you haven't done it before, is to move into a property. Move into something that you could pick apart, maybe the basement first, and get that legally suited, get it rented out, then start upstairs, and then maybe move out, or maybe sell the whole thing as an investment. So there's different ways to do it. You just don't want to stress your life out. It's not like the TV shows. I don't even know what the TV show is called, but it doesn't happen in 15 minutes. It can happen in 3 to 6 months, but we like to keep it real. Our move up program for any beginner investor out there, this is a must. Real estate is about really one thing: total book value. How much real estate do you own? I know when I started in real estate, I wanted to get to $5 million worth of real estate as soon as I could. And I made a lot of mistakes doing it. And that's why we do what we do, Tim and I. We can laugh about it because at the end of the day, it's all about putting as little money down as possible and getting the most real estate for it. And the move up program is perfect for that. It's where you move into the property, put 5% down, and when you're ready, you move out and you rent it out. The key thing to that is picking a property that you know when you do move out will cover its costs, so you can go replicate that. The next thing is the BRRRR strategy. BRRRR is very, very popular. Tim and I have been doing the BRRRR for close to 20 years. We didn't even know we were doing the BRRRR. The BRRRR is simply buying.
It's a relatively new term. It just came up in the last few years. Now it's all over every real estate investing book and seminar and everything.
I think Bigger Pockets came out. Those guys are awesome. Anyway, the BRRRR is when you buy, you renovate, you refinance, you rent out, and you repeat. And the best thing about the BRRRR is buying a property. Once again, you need to know the ARV value, so you know that you can borrow against that value and pull most of your capital out. And even if you get 50% out, at least you've got that to go buy another property with. Very popular strategy. And Tim and I were doing the BRRRR, but we would do long-term BRRRRs. People doing the BRRRRs these days want to do it within 6 months. We would just do it every 3 years. Just pick a property, refinance it, take that money, go buy another property. At the end of the day, somebody was asking in the chat about taxes. At the end of the day, really what you want your real estate to do for you is you want to take that tax-free refinance money and use that for a deposit on your own home. You want to use that to get what you want out of life. It takes a long time to earn that money when you are paying taxes. And this way, just by sitting on real estate, and that's why we never believe in timing the market. Tim and I, we've bought most of our properties at the peak of the market. And the reason why that happened for us over the years is that's when we're earning most of our income, because we're real estate agents. So we had the most money to go and put down on properties. We didn't care about timing the market. We just cared about getting into the market. They always say the best thing in real estate is time in the market. And it's true. I mean, we've gone through how many downturns, Tim? 3, 4, 5 downturns now. And those properties, they went up, they went down, rents went up. Now everybody's laughing. But you know what? It's Calgary. It does go up and down. And we know
pretty much the whole country of Canada is like that because there's so much immigration coming in and our standard of living keeps going up and up. That peak, you're always going to have a top of the market, and then it's going to drop a little bit because real estate's cyclical, but then the next peak is going to be even higher. So people can buy at the top of the market and then it goes down, they get all disappointed, but then the market goes back up again, and then someone else buys at the top of the market and it's higher than where the first person did. So because of that continual appreciation in the Canadian market, someone's always buying at the top of the market. And like Azad said, you just need to get in to ride that wave.
Yeah, and there's always different sections of the market that aren't moving. Like we just bought an $800,000 home on the weekend in Cranston. And why did we get our clients? These clients own 2 rental properties. Guess what they're doing? They're refinancing, taking their money and putting on a bigger home. And guess what? The 800 to 1 point whatever, that market's not even moving. So there is no competition in that market, and it's the best time to get maximum value on their investment properties than to go and move out. And we're not even selling those properties. They're going to sit there and continue to go up, and they'll probably make another 100,000 each property they own, which we plan to, in a few years' time, upgrade them from an $800,000 home to a $1.2 million home. So anyway, getting back on Airbnb, you know what? It takes a lot of work. It is possible. You can make a lot of money from it. The other thing about Airbnbs right now that we like is long-term furnished rentals or executive rentals. There's so many people moving to the city. They've got nothing. They're moving here on contracts. They need places to live, and you can get maximum dollar for your rental rates out there in all segments of the market. So just not Airbnb if you don't want to do that much work, but not student rentals, furnished rentals are really on the uptick and are in demand. Student rentals, students are paying over $1,000 per room right now. So, you know, we've got, if you've read our book, Fearless Real Estate, there's a famous line in there: if you're not cash flowing, you're not trying. So you can't be scared of these interest rates. You need to be around like-minded people that understand that you need to cash flow. And if you need to do student rentals, you can get great student rentals. Not only that, you can rent out to a group of students that are like friends. You could post where I see this, I was reading it today actually. You can actually post at the university a house with 4 bedrooms and post the amount, and they may even team up with one extra person. There may be two guys in a room. You know, there might be 5 bedrooms, but 6 people living in the house, and you could cap it of whatever. And if you're getting your amount, if you're getting 5,000 in rent, you're cash flowing.
Yeah, and we've got an investor who owns a number of duplexes near Mount Royal University, and he rents to female-only students. So he finds that his places are always full because by renting to female-only students, they have no problem renting rooms and sharing the same kitchen because they know it's just women living there. They don't have to worry about, you know, these strange college kids or guys in there. He discovered that strategy, and like I said, he never has a vacancy. So if you think outside the box, think of these different things to do to fill your place up. It might not even start out as a student rental, but if your mortgage rate went up so high that you're not cash flowing, you may have to turn it into that type of strategy so that you can bring your cash flow back up and be in the positive again.
Yeah.
Renting each room out.
And just the key on student rentals, half the time they're not even students. So half the time they've just moved here, they're single people, they've moved here and they need a cheaper place to live, and they don't mind living with 3 people. So we're just being honest with that. Sometimes it's not even students, and you can make a lot of money from it. Rent to own, you know what? Rent to own is really going to come back really, really strong coming, you know, when the market kind of cools a little bit, just because people are paying high amounts of money for rent right now, and they would love the ability to buy the property that they're living in. So rent to own is where you rent to somebody, you actually charge them extra rent. That extra rent could be $200 to $500 each month. That there goes into, it actually can be summed up in a number of ways for them to afford the property. It could go into a bank account for them. If they buy the property, you know, that could be part of their deposit, or we've seen people just take it off the purchase price at the end of the day. So you actually rent the property and have an agreed amount to purchase the property at the end of the day. Agreements for sale. You know what? We haven't seen a lot, but there will be defaults. Agreements for sale is when people are in trouble with their mortgages right now and they can't afford it. You can actually go in and take over that mortgage and own that property today without qualifying. You know what? There's people that strategize around that, Tim, and it works out for them. So that's just one way. Wholesaling, we talked about that already. Small and multifamily investing in Calgary, it's very, very expensive right now. The cap rate is very, very high for that sort of stuff. just because there's not a lot of it, right, Tim?
Yeah, small multifamily, it's fourplexes, sixplexes, anything up to maybe 10 units. The smaller apartment buildings you see around here in the Beltline where we are, there's quite a few of them in Edmonton. But it's something that single investors can get into, or a few investors can get together and they can qualify for these places because they may be, the price range may be $1 million plus, you know, $1 million to 1.6, something like that. If you have enough assets to back you up, someone who owns 10, 15 rental properties will have enough assets that the bank will look at that, and then they'll be able to qualify for these small rental or small multifamily buildings. It's quite complicated. You have to put a huge down payment down. So we suggest talking to a good mortgage broker before you get into it. The last one, large multifamily, commercial, retail, and industrial. This is where most of our really, really experienced investors end up. They team up, they put syndicates together so that they can get some of these larger units, which when you're buying these things like large multifamily, the banks lend on the building's performance. So if you're getting X amount of rent out of 50 units, the bank will look at that as the building's income, and then they can use that to qualify for the loan, not your personal income.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Okay.
Okay, next thing.
Rental rates, costs, and expenses. These are, where are we with that? These are three things that when you're analyzing a property, you need to know exactly what's going on with the type of property that you're going to buy.
Yeah, and the big thing here is comparing apples to apples. We always say this, and this is where a lot of investors get it wrong. Like people call us and say, "Hey, I'm getting this amount of rent. Why am I not getting more?" And we're like, "Well, who bought you that property?" For example, there's a few years ago, I would say, Tim, 4 years now with the condo market downtown. The condo market downtown was oversupplied. We wouldn't even be buying down there. Okay, this is about 4 to 5 years ago. Now it's totally changed. So, you know, it's all about finding properties that are similar and running those numbers to similar properties. For example, if you are looking at buying, say, a property in a cul-de-sac, you're not going to take rental rates from a property on a main drive, or a bus stop out front, or across from, you know, a shopping plaza. There's different rates that properties are going to demand in different areas. So you have to compare apples to apples. We always stress that when running comparable properties on Rent Faster.
Yeah, and you got to know all of your costs and expenses. You need to know what your mortgage payment is, what your taxes are, what your insurance are going to be. You got to factor in maintenance costs, vacancy costs. If your community has a HOA fee, you need to factor that in. Condo fees or strata fees. If you own a condo, all of these costs need to come into your analysis, because that's going to be the expense side of your spreadsheets. The income side is very easy in rental properties. It's the rent you're taking in. So knowing those costs and controlling those costs. How do you control those costs? Well, you pick better tenants so they don't run the property down, so you're not constantly repairing things. You can't get away with there has to be some wear and tear allowed when tenants are in a rental property, but you don't want them trashing the place every time you get a new set of tenants. So you got to control those things. Those are factors within your control, and you want to keep your costs as low as possible.
Yeah, so understanding, we talked about ARV, after renovation value, understanding where it's going to be landing with the appreciation over the years. You know, at the end of the day, you want to buy these properties and understand how long it's going to take to get where you need to be. And by running your numbers, running the cash flow analysis, you can really understand that. And what's really interesting, Tim, what's happening in the market right now is that we have investors that have been holding on to properties and the rental rates are so low. For example, we're selling a suite of property. We've got a few coming up right now, off-market suite of properties. We're going to talk about one, run the numbers on one of them shortly, Tim. But the rental rates, we have landlords that won't increase the rents on tenants. They just, and I didn't know this was a thing, but it's a thing. There's landlords out there, and I always say, you know, you have to be fair, but we're running a business as well. So you have to cover your costs. But some people, I can tell you, they signed the fixed rates 3 years ago, so their mortgage rates are really low. So they never raise rents. We'll just, Dan, and the people that just bought the $800,000 home in Cranston, they bought a property in Fairview 2 years ago for 450,000, I would say. About that. Their rents, when they were telling us the rents, I think the upstairs was rented for like 1,500 and the downstairs was rented for 1,100. And upstairs with the garage these days is renting up to $2,400. And a downstairs with a garage, they both come with a garage. So downstairs with a garage, that's unheard of, but that would go for around 1,700. So they're way off their numbers. And we said to her, well, why don't you raise the rents? And they're like, nah, they're great people. We don't need the money. And I was like, wow, good for you. Good for you. We always say that, if you can, but at the same time, it's a fine line. You're running a business. And you know what? It gave Dan and Caitlin the confidence knowing that, yes, they're not charging the rents that they can be right now, but it gave them the confidence in buying the $800,000 home, knowing, geez, we could really make another $600 off our rental property per month. That's going to help us afford this big home we're buying. So, and now they're moving out of the Mackenzie Lake property, and same thing, rents are going to be through the roof on that one. So you really have to run the numbers. And for you investors out there, I would take the tenants, because when you normally buy a property, you normally have to give 3 months notice, but to get the property, because the landlord doesn't want to upset the tenants, right? So to get the property, I would actually take the tenants. You may be losing money. You may not be getting market rents for the next 3 months, but guess what? When you take on a tenant, you actually don't pay your mortgage the first month. So you'll be up, $2,000 or whatever it is. You'll still be up. And then you calculate the next 2 months, you still will be getting market rent. So you have to get creative and say, no, I'll take the tenants and I'll deal with the tenants later. I'll either jack the rent, renegotiate with them, or I'll move them out, right? That's
and the seller will appreciate this because he doesn't have to give the tenants notice and keep them for that extra 3 months where they might be disgruntled. It's the new owner that takes them on and gives them the rental increase notice or a notice to vacate. So you might even get the property at a lower price if you take it right away with the tenants in it.
Yeah. Flip properties is a funny thing. Like, we have properties that we're looking at that, if it's still going to be a rental for a number of years, we wouldn't recommend doing a full-on upgrade to the property. You may leave the same flooring in, and by leaving the same flooring in, you could advertise the property that pets are allowed, because you're going to replace that flooring 2 years down the road. So I always say long-term flips are the best way to go, because then you have built-in equity already, and you can decide when you want to do the flip at that stage.
Running the numbers on a BRRRR property, you have to understand that when you refinance it, that's the fourth R or third R. When you refinance it, you can only refinance up to 80% of the property's value. So you have to leave 20% of the value in there. And when you're renovating these BRRRR projects, you have to make sure that those numbers are there, that when you renovate it and you get it appraised, you can still pull money out, even though, you can only pull it out up to 80%. If the property is not, say you bought it for 400, you renovate it and it gets appraised and it's only 430, you're not going to be able to pull any money out because you have to leave 20% of the value in there. So running your numbers on the before and the after renovation is key. Condos, duplex, and single family homes, the rental rates will vary a little bit depending on what property type you have. So research the numbers, make sure that those rents can cover your costs. Suite properties, you always get more rent on a property when you can get 2 sets of rents. We always suggest people legalize those suites if you buy an illegal suite. That way, when you go to refinance or when you go to buy another one, the banks will take both sets of rents when they're determining the income from the property.
Yeah, and a lot of suite properties we go in, it doesn't take a lot to legalize it. We've legalized a suite with as little as $2,500, and legalizing a suite could add $50,000 to $60,000 worth of value on top of what you paid for the property. So it could be worth it. Student rentals, you know what? We've got clients doing executive student rentals where they're putting in, maybe 2 fridges, or they're putting in 2 sets of washer and dryers, and they just really make it comfortable for the students. And students are paying up to $1,400 per room just to live in a house that has all of these additional amenities that
Yeah,
are on
there'll be
offer.
a kitchen upstairs, a kitchen downstairs. There'll be more
High
sets
end.
of laundry so that, they're not waiting in line to do their laundry. And, the appliances will be nice, stainless steel appliances. The flooring will be nice. It's high end. And like Azad said, the students will pay for it.
Depends on the student, but yeah.
Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna quickly show you an analysis on 3 different properties. We've got a condo, a half duplex, and then a student rental. What we do before we buy any property is we run a simple spreadsheet like this. You don't have to get super, super complicated when you're running an analysis on a property to determine whether you're gonna buy it or not. If you look, I hope you guys can read that in the room here. But if you look at this property here, it's a smaller condo on 17th Ave up in the neighborhood of Shaganappy. So it's just up the hill
Yeah.
from
It's near, there's a
From
pub
Croach Up.
across the road,
Yeah.
Newcastle pubs across the
Newcastle
road.
Pub.
Yeah.
So this is active on the market right now. It's got a list price of $359. And if you say you get it for $355, you're putting your 20% down, 71,000. You look at the mortgage, we always go to Rate Hub, which is a mortgage site where you can plug in your numbers and it'll tell you what your mortgage payment's going to be. So the current rate for a 5-year mortgage, 30-year term, 5-year term, 30-year amortization is 5.39%. The mortgage on that condo unit is going to be $1,582. We always factor in the taxes, we factor in insurance, utilities if we're paying them, but generally if there's tenants in there, we get the tenants to pay our utilities. Maintenance, we always put in a fee for maintenance. With a condo, it's going to be less because the exterior of the building is covered by your condo fees. The condo fee on this unit is $463, and we always factor in vacancy. I use 1 month every 2 years as my vacancy rate because generally after 2 years, I want this place empty for a month so I can spruce it up, whether I got to put new flooring in or paint it. That's the number that I put in. We usually don't have any vacancies right now.
We
nowadays.
haven't for years.
Yeah.
So, the funny thing about this building, we actually have a client that has an Airbnb in the building. And because it's really 2 blocks from the C train station, Westbrook C train station. So you can walk down there. And it's rented for around 23 days a month at $150 per night. So the numbers on an Airbnb blow these numbers out of the water. But the standard rent of $2,600, that's what they go for in a newer building.
Yeah, in Shaganappy.
In Shaganappy. So Tim, what do the numbers look like at the end of the day?
Yeah, so you got the monthly cash flow number it's not that great. It's $161, but over time it will get bigger and bigger as the mortgage gets paid down and as the rental rate goes up. Monthly mortgage pay down, it's roughly 2.2% per year. So monthly, that's 656, which is, it's like your tenant is paying, it's like free money there.
Yes.
Your mortgage pay down.
656. Imagine you had 10 of these. You're at $6,000 a year mortgage pay down.
And
$6,000 a month.
The final line in our analysis there is the projected monthly appreciation at 3.5% annually, which is Calgary's 75% average, which we use, or 75-year average, which we use in all of our analysis. That's about $1,000 a month that it's going to appreciate. Now, when we did our market report earlier in this seminar, it's 17% is year-over-year appreciation rate for condos in Calgary right now. So
we don't want 17. That's what it's actually doing right now. Last year condos overall were like 13%.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to end up at 17%.
So
That's
yeah,
huge.
so if you look at the annual return of $22,000, you divide that into your down payment of $71,000, you're at a 31% rate of return on your money.
Yeah, 31% return, and we're using 3.5% growth, where this year's already at 17%. So we're not here to blow smoke. We're just here to tell you that even at our numbers, conservative numbers, this investment as a standalone, just buy and hold rental property, we're not even talking furnished rental. We're not talking Airbnb. You know what? The numbers work all day long on this one. And this is on the market right now.
Yeah, so this is what we suggest you do if you have your eye on a property, no matter what type it is do a simple analysis like this. to see whether you can get into it or not. Does it cash flow at today's rental rates? We looked at the rental rates for Shaganappy for a 2-bedroom condo, and they vary depending on, because Shaganappy has some very old buildings, they got some brand new buildings, but in the newer buildings, the rental rates for a nice 2-bedroom contemporary apartment are anywhere up to $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
So because it's so close to downtown and people want to live on the west side of town there. So know your numbers and analyze it like this, then you'll know getting into it, you know, if you have to present an idea or an analysis like this to a potential investor, to a potential partner, you can tell them, these are the numbers, this is what we're going to get when we buy this property.
Yeah, and just, I'll just speak to this just quickly. So understanding, Tim was going through the slides before, understanding the community. So you look at this community, what's going to happen? Well, Westbrook Mall, the whole area is slated for redevelopment, like the whole area, because you have the C train, and when you have a C train, multifamily is allowed, high rises are allowed. So you're going to get restaurants and more pubs. There's a pub across the road from here, but because the C train's there, you're going to get better shopping, better restaurants, better facilities around there. You probably get gyms. I don't know. Kalani has a pool that you could walk to and go swimming. Like, you're going to have all of these amenities. So buying something like this for the long term, to me, makes sense. You're buying into a building that, you know what, it's modern, it's newer, people want to live there. To me, this is hands down a great investment. And where are these prices going to go? When we look at this, same as the West End property we're in the West End condo yesterday, and with Julian, and that condo is on the market for 440. And we said to Julian, this condo, we could see it going to 650,000. Where is a condo like this going? I don't know, but it's just going to continue to go up.
Yeah. Okay, the next one, this property, it's a half duplex in Dover. We generally don't put people in Dover, but Dover has nicer sections and the prices are very, very reasonable, which is why we will go into it for certain clients. This came on the market this morning and I thought, hey, great, we'll set up a showing or viewing of it. Azad and I will check it out tomorrow. We'll, you know, call our clients, whichever ones are interested in this price range, see if they want to come down and look at it. About an hour later, not an hour, about 3 or 4 hours later, I got a message from the realtor that it was sold already. So they listed it at 349 and I put a potential purchase price at 380 because I knew it was going to go over list, but it sold for 425.
But no
So
conditions.
No conditions,
sold.
3 hours, it sold $75,000.
Just sitting on the no conditions. So what happens with the no conditions? There's people in Ontario that will do this. I won't just pick on Ontario. There's investors out there. Sorry, people in Ontario, don't email me tomorrow because everyone emails me and complains. But there's investors out there that will tie a property up. So what they'll do is they'll put the offer in and put $20,000 deposit. But as soon as that deposit doesn't come in on the day that it's due, the property goes back on the market. And we're seeing that a lot. Like, we're seeing it a lot. A property will sell and then the buyer will get cold feet. And the only thing about unconditional offers that you have to really stress about is that the property has to appraise. Okay, if it doesn't appraise at that value, this one's going to appraise to no problem.
I don't know. I was looking
yeah.
at sales of half
There you
duplexes in Dover, and the highest price I saw for one was fully renovated at 395,000.
So there you go. So this one sold for 425. What happens if it doesn't appraise, which Tim is like, and we will have these conversations with our clients. We will say that we will cut it off. We would cut it off in this extreme case. If someone was putting an unconditional offer, we would cut it off and say, you know what, 395 renovated, that's the highest we're going, because this one's unrenovated and you're tapping out at the top here. So this investor that just bought it for 425, if it doesn't appraise for 395, the bank will only loan him up to 395, which he would have to put his deposit down, right? If it's a rental property, 20%, and he would have to come up with the rest of the funds on his own. Okay, so a lot of people don't understand that on unconditional offers. Sorry, Tim.
Yeah, so anyways, same kind of numbers as the condo, just the rents are different. This property has a single garage out back, so the upstairs rent, 1,800, that's very conservative. We're seeing in some communities a little closer to downtown on the west side of Deerfoot Trail, 22, 23, 2,400 for a half duplex, main floor with the garage. And the basement suite, we have it there at 1,300 down. That's, there weren't really any pictures of the basement, so I didn't know what state it was in. So, you know, an original basement in Dover is gonna go for 1,300. If it's renovated, you're looking at 15 and a half. So those numbers there, you're looking at a 40% return. That will go down because the property actually sold for 425. You have to put more financing cost in there,
Yeah.
but you're still at about 35% rate of return.
The numbers still work.
Yeah.
We were looking in Bowness. There's one pending right now. It is going to sell for the highest price in Bowness ever for a half duplex that's been renovated. It came on for 585. We cut it off at 600. Our clients weren't even interested in it. They walked, so they didn't even go. But we ran our numbers. We said at 600,000 for a half duplex in Bowness, the numbers still work. Like the number at 600,000, the numbers were still cash flowing on this half duplex. And tonight we're going to find out, and I'll tell you guys in 2 weeks' time what it sold for. But it will be the highest price. And Tim was looking at our clients. We were hammering Bowness 2 years ago, and we were buying semi-detached, same properties, unrenovated for under 380,000. So now they're at over six. Now they're going to be 600,000 for a renovated. It's a huge ARV on that. One last thing about this area, Dover, the reason why Tim said we don't put a lot of clients in there, there are beautiful pockets. There's little cul-de-sacs in there. We love the north side of Dover. Is it the south side that's backing on to
The west side and the south side. It's the north side is backing, or it's close.
We
North
don't-
side edge is on
Oh,
Forest
that's
Lawn.
right. So we don't like the north side. We've actually been in there. There's prostitution. And this is during the daytime. Like you see it. There's you know, but there are beautiful pockets in there, and there's people that have lived there for a very, very long time. So you know what? There are different parts of Dover that we would invest in, as Tim said.
Okay, the third one is a student rental. This is actually a suited single family home in Acadia. The current owner, it doesn't have it as a student rental, but he was wondering whether he should sell it or how he could boost his cash flow. And we just said, well, look, if you really want to boost your cash flow, rent it out by the room. Turn it into a student rental, rent out each room for $1,000. You've got 5 bedrooms, 2 down, 3 up. There's 5,000 a month right there in rent. And this would increase his cash flow to a positive amount of over $1,000 a month just by turning it into a student rental.
Yeah, this is an off-market property. We're getting it measured up this week, right, Tim? Tomorrow, and it's coming on the market. But we always offer our investors our off-market properties first. But this would be perfect for a student rental. The C train station isn't far. You got McLeod Trail, you got Chinook Mall, you've got Blackfoot, Deerfoot Trail, Glenmore. You've got all those main arteries around you that you can get in and out of the community. And this would be 100% rented all of the time. It's legally suited, and having 2 students downstairs with their own setup, kitchen, bathroom, laundry, and then you have the students upstairs, you would be making a killing off this property.
Yeah, one thing when you're running numbers like this on a student rental, you got to boost your maintenance cost up a little bit because you have more people living in the property. So I've got it at about $350 a month. You can work with that number all you want, but you're going to be doing a little bit more maintenance because of the amount of people using the place. And they are students, so it's going to take a little bit more property management.
Yeah.
We had a client with a student rental in Brentwood near the university, and the students kind of treated it a little rough.
Yeah.
Remember
The
this?
students used to, just quickly, these students, what they used to do, they used to get, because did they have a car? They must have had a car. One of them had a car, and they would go to the liquor store or to Sobeys, and it was a co-op actually. They went to the co-op in Dalhousie, and every time they went shopping, they would pull the trolley, shopping cart. They would bring the shopping cart home and park it in the garage, and then take the groceries out and go in the house. And when we opened up the garage, there was like 16 shopping carts in there. And we had to sit down, the 6 students, and kind of say, hey, you know, this is unacceptable, guys. Get them out of here. So anyway, true story.
And in the backyard, they had couches around the fire pit.
Oh, shit.
See, yeah, so
Yeah.
you just got to be prepared to deal with that with the students. Just be a little more forceful in your management.
Yeah, and our investor that had he worked at the university. He didn't want to deal with them at all. So, you know what? Tim and I went over and we dealt with it, and they sorted it out, which was great.
Yeah.
So that is an example of a student rental. And once again, an area like Acadia, you know, the ARV. So if you bought this property, just held on to it and then maybe renovated it down the road, updated it. We're seeing flip properties in Acadia all the way up to $950,000. So there is a massive, massive spread in between unrenovated and renovated properties, and that's going to continue. So is it a good investment? Hands down, yes, it is.
This said taxes, we got a comment here in the
Yeah.
chat. It says taxes seem quite low in all your examples. Those are the taxes that I pulled off the MLS today. So they're Calgary, City of Calgary taxes on each of these properties.
Yeah, we're pulling directly from the city. We're not making up the taxes or, and you know what? I want to leave you guys with when analyzing a property. This is the biggest thing that we get for years, Tim, and we call it analysis paralysis. Okay, we have a lot of engineers as investors, as our clients, and they talk themselves out of it. Like Tim, they really do. And then when they come and see us, we just simplify it, you know?
Yeah, like we would show someone, one of our engineer clients, this analysis and they would go, oh, that's not good enough. And then they'll go home and they'll come back with like an 18-page analysis of this rental property with projections that go out 50 years. And we're like, that's great, but you don't need to get that complicated.
Oh yeah, and we've worked with our engineers, and you know, at the end of the day, it's all about taking action, and that is the truth. One of our engineers, Nico, which I can talk about, he's done tremendously well. You know, at the end of the day, he went off and bought a whole bunch of properties, Tim, and every property's gone up $100,000 to $200,000. And he was one of those investors that had analysis paralysis. We could definitely tell you that. So, you know, once you take action and you buy the right property and understand what you're getting into, understand the exit strategies, and have a team around you that are going to help you get the property rented to good people, it makes it so much easier to make money from real estate.
Yeah, so the final thing we're going to talk about today, because we're finding it's becoming more and more important, is putting together a good offer. In today's market, you can call it the ultimate seller's market that we've seen ever in Calgary. The sellers have control of the pricing. They have control of pretty much everything in the market right now because there are very few sellers, which means there's way too many buyers out there competing for the same product. And as I touched a little bit about on an unconditional offer, there are other things in your offer that you can do to sweeten it, to give your offer an advantage over everybody else.
Yeah, one would be taking on the tenants. Some people don't want to do that. Another one would be a larger deposit. So, you know, a bigger deposit could sway the owner to go with your offer. One thing about lowball offers, we're only doing that if the property's been on the market more than 30 days. There's no such thing in this market as a lowball offer, unless you look at the DOM, which is the days on market, to get properties below the list price. I mean, some properties we are getting. I mean, I could tell you, I counted on that $800,000 property. I went in, Tim, at $20,000 less. And they just counted back full list, take it or leave it. We're like, wow. You know, at that stage, there was no other offer. And sure enough, half an hour later, they rang me, said there's another offer coming in. And we just stuck to our guns. And we actually pulled the property inspection condition away, but we kept the finance condition in. And so what we did there, it made our offer look very, very strong. We had a huge deposit. We gave them the possession that they wanted. We took away the property inspection, just had a finance condition. And Tim and myself went into the property for a good hour and a half, maybe, Tim, we're in there, and did a full walkthrough of every room in the house, checked the appliances out, probably saved our clients $500 by doing it this way, but definitely got them the property under contract. And now they waive conditions, and that's going to be their new home. So you have to get creative in this market with multiple offers, and forget about the low ball offers out there. That's not going to happen for a while. When to buy at or above list. We just talked about that, and when to walk away. That is great, Tim, that you got that in there, because we're walking away from more properties than ever before, Tim. We actually have a cutoff for our clients. We actually know what rents will cover, you know, that you will achieve with that property, and then where the max should be. And to be honest with you, over the years, sometimes we don't mind overpaying for a property. if it ticks all the boxes, if there's no maintenance to be had, or it's got a brand new roof, brand new furnace, brand new windows, those big ticket items could run you in the thousands of dollars. So sometimes getting it all at once, it's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, and one more thing about knowing when to walk away is you always, as investors, you can't get too emotionally invested in these properties that you go after. As a homeowner, we can see it. Some people just love that house in that neighborhood and they got to have it and they'll pay whatever. But as an investor, you got to make sure your numbers work. So if someone's going to outbid you and you're going to have to stay where you are, because if you go a little higher, you're going to be in a negative cash flow position. You have to walk away sometimes. And remember, as investors, the numbers will determine whether you buy the property or not.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, we were shopping with Jenna and Pat. We're in Valley Ridge. They picked out a beautiful two-story home backing onto Stony Trail. And we worked out that we had to go above the list price, but if we went over 700,000, we were paying the most that anybody has ever paid for a property backing onto Stony Trail. And we just did not want to do that for our clients. And we said, you know what, if you're paying that much money, we can buy you something inside of a community, even that community, and have a better location. So you have to cut it off at some point because it just gets ridiculous. And Tim, how many times we look at every property that sells in Calgary and we scratch our head sometimes on what they go for. We're like, wow, somebody paid that much for that.
Yeah, so it goes to show you that the new normal that is being set these days, the prices they've never been seen before, and it's just going to continue to go up. So it is a new normal. We got to get used to it.
Yeah. Okay, next slide. We're going to go through this quickly. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat. We will get to it before we finish. As we mentioned, we wanted to give you a free copy of our 1 million reasons to buy real estate. You just go to crewinvesting.com. It's a free download. It's a great read. It goes through the core fundamentals of investing in real estate. It goes through the 3 rates of return. It goes through, Tim, I got to read it again. I can't even remember what it goes through. It goes through the whole financing strategy. It goes through picking a strategy first, an investment strategy. It really goes through the core fundamentals on getting started.
And we think that everybody out there should download it. It is free. And what it does is it gets you back to the basics of why we invest in real estate. So it's another refresher for the experienced investors out there. It's a refresher of why you're doing it. For the new investors, it shows you why you should get into it.
Yeah, it's funny. We got someone in the waiting room. It's funny how they turn up right at the end. Anyway, the next one is our Fearless Real Estate. This will cost you at $17 on our website. What we love about it, as you can see, it's got a lot of clients on there. We wanted to go through exactly what our clients are doing, how they've achieved over the years, and how you can do it too. It goes more in depth on property management, on legalizing a basement suite, on joint ventures, on borrowing hard money, on doing flips. It goes through all of those other strategies, Airbnb, lease options. It goes through rent to own, agreements for sale. There's a whole bunch of good stuff in there. And you know what, we'll be honest, Rich Dad Poor Dad did change our lives many, many years ago, but we found that it was just, general information. It didn't give you the meat and potatoes that you need to move forward with investing in real estate.
And we have actual client stories in there. So our clients that have done all these strategies, we showcase what they've done and the successes they've had. And, it's not just us telling our own story, it's our clients that are doing those strategies and making money at it.
Yeah. The next thing is optional. We're very excited about this. You know what? We wanted to design something. We know a lot of people out there are paying high property management fees. Generally, to get a property rented these days, it used to be $500, Tim. Now it's 1 month rent
usually.
And then people are paying 20%, 10% to 12% property management fees. We actually wanted to act as virtual landlord assistance to our investors. This is really, we've asked our clients what the most value they see in what we're doing. And this by far outweighs it because they're saving money each month. We give our clients a full rundown, a full landlord training in person on how to run their tenants, how to select the tenants, how to set up the marketing for the property, how to screen the tenants, and then we're there to help them as well. Not only that, with this $97 per month, you get all of the mentorship. There's over 100 hours of content in an online portal for landlords. And then there's other things in there as well, like JV contracts, leases. There's also guides, and there's all sorts of templates for people to use.
Yeah, and
to help
it's
them.
also, it makes you a full member in Calgary Real Estate Wealth. So not only do you come to these seminars on either virtual or in person, you have direct access to Azad and I, so that we can help you with your rental properties, help you get more rental properties. And, you know, it's just a refresher on why we do it, and you know, why we get excited about investing in real estate, and all that information is in this membership.
Yeah, and the best thing is it's optional. You don't have to do it to work with us. If you want to manage your own properties, that's fine. If you just want us to buy you the investment properties and get it right and run the analysis when we're buying that, we do that all the time as well. Yeah, so if you want to see what our clients have been up to, we do have a YouTube channel. It's called Calgary Real Estate Wealth, or Crew TV, and you can see what the clients are doing and what they're saying. That's the best part about it.
Yeah. So that's the end of our seminar. Where do we go from here? If you're interested in moving your real estate investment business forward, just book a one-on-one meeting with us, and we'd be happy to find out where you are right now and where you want to go.
Yeah, in 2 weeks' time, we just want to thank everybody out there. Our emails are here. You can email us. That is the best way. You could send us a text, but we get a lot of texts that we have to return after each session. Email is the best. And in 2 weeks' time, we have our lawyers coming in. It's a great, I mean, anytime we have our accountant, lawyers, or mortgage brokers come in, I advise you guys to come down in person, because then you get to speak to them, you get to meet them, you get to ask them questions. It's free, first of all. And by us reaching 6,000 members, we want to thank you for that. Please go to work tomorrow or school or whatever and tell your friends about us. But in 2 weeks' time for that next session, if you can make it in person, we're going to have some wine and cheese down here, and we would love to see some of you and meet you in person.
Yeah, there's one more question in here. Will the links be shared for us in the book download? Yes, it's at calgaryrealestatewealth.com. Just put that in your search engine and you'll get right to where you can order the free book.
Yeah, it's all in there.
All right, thanks everybody.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.